करना है. 2015 when I said okay अब मुझे कुछ करना है अपना. He was like what are you gonna do with this event startup? Why don't you start an insurance company with me? तुम बोल रहे हो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी खोलोगी, तुमने कभी इंश्योरेंस खुद खरीदा भी है? I've always been very free range यार कि चलो यार कुछ ऐसे कर लेते हैं types, you know.
Do you think like this idea of like starting or like building your own business is just like a epitome of a fulfilling career, or like advice you must be receiving from people how to be a good mother, and like certain advice from your investors or just like maybe other people in the industry as to how to be a good startup founder?
Like there are simple things that the product misses, the simple woman perspective, because there aren't so many women today in coding or in product management or technology and design. I literally signed the term sheet on the day the twins were born.
Did you have like any domain expertise or any unique insights to that pushed you to like build in fashion or clothing industry?
I had this thing going on in my head for a very long time. I mean, I worked in the UK, you dress up very well, yeah, over there, and it just makes a difference. It makes a hell lot of difference. Yeah.
What do you think about having a capsule wardrobe as a female, right? A female working professional?
So my wardrobe, I love denim. Mm-hmm. Okay, I love good, really, really good fit denim.
Hi everyone, welcome to season 1 of Wish I Knew That, a podcast where we dive into the topic of building a career outside law, navigating career pivots, and channelizing your inner curiosity. I'm your host Preeti. I graduated from Lady Shri Ram College, and post that I pursued law from Jindal Global Law School. I currently work with a leading legal tech SaaS startup as part of their business team, and previously I have experience working in dispute resolution and arbitration. So that was a bit about me. In today's episode, I interview Ruchi Deepak, co-founder of Acko and now building a modern-day clothing brand for women, Jolie. In this episode, I want to peek behind the curtain and learn more about the different career chapters in her life that has shaped her both personally and professionally. We touch upon how she left her career as a successful lawyer to start building Acko and parallelly starting her journey as a mother. During our conversation, Ruchi also shares her frustration about finding the right outfit for work every day and what made her start Jolene. So let's dive in today's episode. Hi Ruchi, welcome to Wish I Knew That.
Yeah, I wish I knew. Definitely, I wish I knew all of this.
Yeah, but okay, like before we start this episode, I just want to give like a shout out to Rishabh for just introducing me to you and just like making this episode a reality. So yeah, but yeah, okay. So like Ruchi, you went to LSR,
Yeah.
you studied
Yeah.
political science there.
Yeah.
Then you of course decided to pursue law.
Law,
You went to
yeah.
like faculty of law.
Yeah.
And of course, like we all are aware, like you've had an incredible career. You built Acko, and I mean, I'm just like really excited to learn like more about that journey, more about your time at Acko, and just like hear some of your advice on personal and career growth. Maybe we can just start about talking in terms of like your background. Where did you grow up? How did you grow up?
Yeah, so very interesting question, because I've had like a really sort of very interesting childhood actually. I've never spoken in detail about it, but I grew up in Bihar. Okay, I'm a Bihari. I grew up like in different parts of Bihar. Okay, like literally my early childhood was in the interiors of Bihar, close to Nepal border. And now when I look back, I've been thinking about it. What are those things that have had really profound impact on my own sort of, personality or who I am today? And I realized your childhood, your early childhood, really, really, has that kind of impact. So I grew up like in my early childhood till about 7 or 8 I was 7, 8 year old. I was in this interior part of Bihar, which is close to Nepal. So it was like this, absolutely sort of the wilderness, okay, absolutely rustic, remote. But it was incredible. Like, I feel like, just every child should go through that. Social media, to I don't think the word was also coined by then. Internet was also probably like somewhere up in the air.
Yeah,
Honestly, like when I look back, I think that gave me the grounding that I have today, and that is something that really keeps me sort of rock solid, you know. I know where I came from, where I belong, and that is what I want. You know, in everything that I do, I at least it and it's for my own sanity. It's for nothing, like, you know, it is not something that I'm trying to say that philosophically everybody should be there, but at least personally for me, like, I know that simplicity, this, you know, of life that I experienced as a child, as you know, as a kid, is something that I always long for, and that is where I belong, and that is what I chase. So even if today, let's say, or you know, ever in my life, you know, I end up like achieving something mega, I know that I will still go back to, you know, being that, you know, or wanting to be there, or wanting to just hold on to, you know, that kind of a lifestyle. So that was amazing. And then a little part of my childhood I spent in Patna. Then I finished my schooling from Jamshedpur. And honestly, my parents, I think I'm very grateful to them that I was born to my parents, because being a girl in Bihar in 90s, okay. But my parents, I mean, my dad is from IIT. So there was, my mom, she wanted to be a bureaucrat. I mean, and she's a lawyer. So, you know, for them, it was very clear that it doesn't matter whether you're a girl, you're in Bihar or whatever. You know, they gave me the childhood, the upbringing. We were given a very serious mandate in life that please do not imagine or think that there is a fat dowry sitting for you and you can get married one day easily and just get away with it. No, you have to be something in life. But you know, like, you don't really think about these things when you're growing up. But subconsciously, you know, this starts shaping your personality. In grade 4 or something, and I remember I heard about fighter pilot, like Indian sort of the defense services, and someone talking about being a fighter pilot, and I was enamored and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. But those days, again, women were not allowed to be in the army or in the air force and all of that. So, you know, like, but I was also very young, so I didn't know, okay. And so my mother said, okay, you know, I think you could think about becoming a doctor or an engineer.
I feel like people who like pursue law, the premise is okay, I can't do maths.
No, I wasn't like as bad, but honestly, I think it was a lot to do with the fact that I was really good in other stuff. Okay, I love literature. I love debating. I was playing football. Okay, at state level, I was doing everything. Okay, and I love culture overall. You know, so for me, like, those were my area of interest, and like, being an engineer somehow didn't really kind of attract me. So I knew that I can't be there. So my mother said, okay, why don't you think about becoming a doctor? I said, okay. But by grade, I think I was in grade 9. I remember the India Today published for the first time the college ranking. So number 1 was St. Stephen's, and then LSR. I had not heard of these colleges. Nobody talks about DU colleges, at least back then in Bihar. You only know about IIT, you only know about being an IAS officer, or you know about medical colleges. So I didn't even know about LSR. And I was like, what the hell is this college? Like, you know, it just sounded so powerful to me. Like, look at this alumni, Naina Lal Kidwai, Suki, and all of that. And I don't know what happened to me. I was like, मुझे तो इसी college में जाना है. Okay. And my +2, I did incredibly well. Went to Stephens, I think, and they said, which college do you want? You have great marks. I mean, which college do you want to go to? And I said, LSR. I said, you'll get through LSR. You don't even need to apply here. And I didn't apply to Stephens, actually.
Wow.
Okay, so I went ahead. I applied to LSR. Back then also, I didn't know. Like, I wanted to study economics, and I said, okay, again, I'll have to take maths with it, so chuck it. Let's do political science. Maybe I'll think about going into politics, or maybe I'll try and be an IAS officer. Honestly, so I've had these phases in my life where I've become really obsessed with one thing. So getting through LSR was my obsession when I was in school. Okay, I was like, I have to go to LSR. Okay, I remember when I was in, in my +2, grade 12, when some of my school senior from LSR, when they came down for the vacation, they were in school, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, they had God level status for me. So LSR meant that much. So I finished LSR again. I didn't know, yaar, karna kya hai. ठीक है. So I said, my friends were applying for CAT, this, that. Again, I was like, sounds very boring to me, yaar. What is this? मुझे कंपनी में तो काम नहीं करना है. ठीक है. तो फिर क्या करें? तो So my mother said, see, you're doing pretty well. I think you can think about becoming an IAS officer. I said, yeah, IAS sounds really good. I'm good with people and I feel like I can be there and maybe, I'll be a good IAS officer. Yeah, honestly, that movie 12th Fail. it's a real, absolutely real depiction of what it takes to be an IAS officer.
Yeah.
3 months after finishing my law, or 4 months, I said, nahi hone wala yaar. Ye, like, I'm not this person. And by then, I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be financially independent. I didn't want to take money from my parents. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, And I'd always been, my parents ensured that I was independent. They, after they dropped me in LSR hostel, day one, they never came.
You were also in LSR,
In LSR
hostel?
hostel, yeah.
Okay, so I was also in LSR hostel and I told my mom like there is no AC. I mean, of course, like back I was like, do you really think I can survive this hostel? She's like, Preeti, this is best for you.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I'm sure you.
I'm so
probably
glad I was
yeah,
part of
yeah.
that. I was in Upper Ash.
Huh.
What about you?
I was in Dingy, and
Dingy.
then what was the one facing the outside lawn? The
because the laundry- because the laundry shop was there.
I was in Dingy, Dhobi, and then final year I was in the Upper Ash.
Upper Ash, yeah.
Honestly, like the most incredible time ever of my life, like those 3 years. But yeah, so then I did law. It was, again, I finished, I quit that whole IS thing in between. I said, ye nahi ho raha hai. My parents were very disappointed. I still remember the look on their face and they were like, what the hell is she? And here are my 2 sisters. One is studying computer science a bit and the other one is studying medicine. So their career is sorted. Okay, and I am like on the road. Like I've just got a law degree. Okay. And like they thought, oh, Lalisa now she's just like gonna be out there. She'll become like this kick-ass IAS officer. So the look on their face, and I felt really really sad. But also I was very headstrong. I said I'm not doing what I can't do, like or what people expect me to do. So I found myself a job. Okay, quickly. This is 2007. I started my I interned a little bit with GE, and then I got married. I got married, okay, and started working with Templeton. That's where I started my career, and I moved to the UK. After that, I think for next 6-7 years, life was fairly exciting. Yeah, making really good money. Lawyers to make shitload of money. Okay, so making really good money. I was in the UK. I traveled. I came back 2012. Joined Matrix Partners. Again, that was about 3 years I spent there was incredible. I learned a lot. The rigor was amazing. Saw how the VC industry works. And I mean, I pretty much spent my career in the investing world. 2015 when I said, okay, ab mujhe kuch karna hai apna. That's when I left and started sort of consulting with a lot of startups. And that's when I met Varun. Varun, who is the founder of ACCO, he was running a company called CoverFox, and he was also my ex-colleague at Templeton. We had a very short 6 months overlap, but we had a good connect. And I started kind of he was running CoverFox, trying to raise capital for CoverFox, and then I was also consulting with startups. 2015 it was 2012 onward, the startup thing had picked up really well. So I just pitched an idea. Not really, I didn't pitch an idea. Like, what are you thinking? Like, what are your plans? Like, are you going to do this, one-man shop or whatever? And all that. I said, I don't know because I've just like kind of like decided to do something on my own and I'll take it easy. But I have this great idea about, an event startup. And I'm looking for a tech co-founder and this and that. And I found one guy from IIT Bombay. So, we'll start this together. And all of that. And he was like, what are you going to do with this event startup? Why don't you start an insurance company with me? And I was like, wow, an insurance company. And I've always been very free range, yaar, ki chalo yaar, kuch aise kar lete types, So it was like that. I said, okay, chalo, chalte hain, why not? I had shelved my idea and I started working with it. This is end of 2015. Yeah, and after that took us about a year to convince investors. I remember I met this investment banker friend of mine. He is big in, his firm is big in domestic. And insurance, you need 50. Back then, you needed 51% domestic capital. And now also, I think it's about 24%. So, and domestic capital is scarce. And domestic capital is very, very tough. So I met him. I knew that the only person who could help me get domestic investor was him. So I was like, Pratik, यार ऐसा ऐसा है इसलिए कि पहले तुमने इतनी अच्छी नौकरी थी छोड़ दी, अब तुमने फिर अच्छा खासा अपना कंसल्टिंग सेटअप किया, वो भी बंद कर दिया, अब पहले तुम वो इवेंट. एंड ही न्यू अबाउट द इवेंट स्टार्टअप बिकॉज this other like common friend of ours, he was trying to be, like help me there. So लाइक वो भी तुमने बंद कर दिया, अब तुम बोल रहे हो इंश्योरेंस कंपनी खोलोगी. तुमने कभी इंश्योरेंस खुद खरीदा भी है?
This is real.
Yeah, it is like, I was like just jumping ship, man. Like,
I have a question. You always talk a lot about this in your interviews, that you always wanted to do something of your own. And I mean, as you speak right now, it looks like you've been such a creative person. You always wanted to try new things.
Yeah.
And do you think like this idea of like starting or like building your own business is just like a epitome of a fulfilling career to you?
No, 100% not. So it's never been about, that finally I will achieve my, ultimate level of satisfaction when I do, have my own startup or whatever. For me, it's always been about new experiences, honestly. For me, it's always been about doing something that powers me for whatever, next 8 years, 10 years, 2 years, 3 years, could be anything. Okay. Unfortunately, I am a very restless person. So I get like, I need to channelize this energy into something where I have many things to do. Many things. So, I mean, if I don't do that, I get very flustered. But to say that for me, the pinnacle of success is being an entrepreneur, no. I don't think so. Because for me, every success metric is very individualistic. You have to define your own success. For me, being a mother was a success metric.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I love managing my house. I love deciding कि क्या बनेगा नाश्ते में, lunch में, dinner में. In fact, I really like it if I come back home on time and I can go to the kitchen and rustle up something. Because for me, that gives me happiness, so that's my success metric. A lot of people might question that, especially like we went to a very high feminist college. They would say, ये तो stereotype hai. But honestly, it doesn't matter. I don't think there's anything that's lauded as stereotype for men and women. Just because women managed house for centuries, today if I do that, I will be perceived as someone who's trying to actually downgrade a woman's stature. No. That's life, yeah. Life is all about family, food, all of those things at the
Thanks
end
for
of the day.
sharing that. That's really powerful.
No, I think that's real, honestly. And a lot of people forget that. There's so much noise about stereotyping and this and that. But honestly, it's what you enjoy. Like, I really tried forcing these things on my daughter. She's 7-year-old now. Like, she loves dressing up. Okay. And like me and my husband, we were really worried that why is she attracted towards lipstick and makeup? She should not be like, am I doing something wrong? But then I realized it's natural inclination. If that gives us happiness, there's nothing wrong with it. Just because the world is saying, oh, women should not be perceived as an, just someone who's as shallow as to do makeup. Nothing wrong with that. So it's very important. So I love it. For me, it's very individualistic. Yeah, your success metric is your success metric. The rest is all vanity metric. Okay, being an entrepreneur, billion-dollar company, unicorn.
Of course, you talked about raising capital. And, I noticed that when you were actually starting with ACO, you also gave birth to twins.
Yeah.
Can you share certain frameworks you must, or like advice you must be receiving from people, how to be a good mother, and like certain advice from your investors or just like maybe other people in the industry as to how to be a good startup founder? And were there any commonalities? And how did you sort of like cope up with both of these things together?
How to be a good mother. You can never be a good mother. You can never be a good mother even if you quit everything and focus 24/7 on your child. I can tell you that much. Okay. Because unfortunately there is again too much noise about being a mother, what a mother should be like, motherhood, and now the whole thing about you shouldn't quit your career, which I firmly believe in. Okay. Which I always say that you should not quit your career just because you should figure out your ecosystem, you should figure out your support system, you should continue working. Only then you can be a good mother. Okay. You can be a good mother only when you can create a role model for your child. Okay. Today, I thank my mom. My mom was like hardcore on me. Hardcore. We had a very difficult relationship. My teenage years were very difficult because she was very clear that I am not letting you slack up. Okay. But I look back and I'm grateful to her that she gave me that direction, that path, the role model that I needed, because that starts from home. Your child, as much as you can try and, maybe show all these podcasts or whatever, nothing. The child will imbibe what he sees in you and your partner. Like I try to, like I was, for example, enamored by Steffi Graf. Okay, I wanted to be Steffi Graf. For me, she was like the most ideal woman. She would seem powerful. She was great at her, craft. She looked stylish. She had grace. So everything that I wanted to be was Steffi Graf. Okay. So I show Steffi Graf videos to my daughter. But does she want to be Steffi Graf? No, she wants to be me. She wants to be her mother. Okay. So, that's what you can do, to your child, to create the right role model at home. Okay.
Did you receive like a lot of advice? Also, like again, a question, like you talk a lot about InsurTech and just like Acko in general. Can you talk about women in tech and what it feels like as a woman to build in tech?
Feels really good, and I hope more women take up tech and they stay in tech, because we need a lot more women in technology and tech product that we are building, for a simple reason that all these products are today being built with a heavy male perspective. Okay. Like there are simple things that the product misses, the a simple woman perspective, because there aren't so many women today in coding or in product management or technology and design who are actually providing that level of input. So that's, I mean, it'll, I think, be wonderful if we have more women getting involved more and more in technology. As a founder who built InsurTech, to look at tech, first of all, to start enjoying tech in itself and to see the power of tech as to what it can do. For me, that was first-hand at Acko, honestly, because before I started Acko, so my friend said, "Tumne kabhi insurance kharida?" I bought insurance. I had a health insurance. I was very savvy investing wise, okay, because I started my career in the investing world. So I knew SIPs and investing and all of that. I knew how to save money. I was very good at saving money. I bought a home very early on in my career because I was very, very savvy about it. Okay. So, but I never bought a car insurance myself. Okay. So then I thought, chalo, like my insurance was expiring. This is in 2015 July. And I said, okay, I'll buy, I'll renew this insurance myself. And it took me 3 days. I was like, what the hell, yeah? Madam, RC भेजिए, Madam फलाना भेजिए, Madam आपका driving license भेजिए. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, आज एक बटन दबाओ और कैब आ जाती है, तो इंश्योरेंस नहीं हो रहा है इतना फास्ट, तो ये तो बकवास है. So anyways, I had that experience. So when I saw how technology enabled that, people, so when we sold our first product and the customer, the first customer, and I spoke with him and I said, "Aapne क्यों खरीदा?" And he just said, "I could buy the insurance on my own." And that to me was like a first hand,
Empowering people.
empowering people. And I was like, oh my God. And financial inclusion that we are trying to strive for everywhere will come when people start buying financial products on their own, because they need to understand what they're buying. It's a really enjoyable process, I'll tell you. Okay, whether you buy insurance or whether you do SIPs or whether you even do stock trading, it can be, and like you just have to really do it once. Okay, and you really will realize that it just that's when the real financial inclusion comes into play. So I saw that with technology, it just boom, yeah. Like an insurance policy which took 3 days to buy with a traditional insurance company, for me was like this now. And now with Acko, you can like go push a button, renew your insurance. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, technology is amazing. You know what it can do.
Yeah.
You know. So I think I wish more and more women enjoy technology and investing, and all of those things.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really, like, people talk about, like, oh, I want to create an impact. I mean, I want to talk about, like, just having those emotions at workplace. Is it okay to let out your emotions at workplace? I mean, did you come across any instance when, like, I'm talking, like, about this point in a more gendered context, where you had someone, like, come in during your one-on-one meetings and, like, had an emotional breakdown, and
No, it's happened, and nothing wrong with it. Honestly, of course, I think back then also for me when I started my career, and I had, of course, instances where I felt absolutely helpless and frustrated with just some situations, and I had a little breakdown. Like, you need to let it out. So you need to let it out. You need to let it out. I think today with all the discussion around mental health and all of that, I think there is a lot more recognition for just letting your emotions out. So I, even then and even now, I feel there's nothing wrong with it. It's about how you can handle it. But honestly, unfortunately, fortunately, or whatever it is, the reality of the corporate world or the business world or the startup world, whichever way you put it, is the fact that it is a cutthroat world at the end of the day. Okay, and to expect that, you will have some kind of a privilege and exclusive treatment, very tough. Yeah, very tough. And I think what is making it more difficult is probably all the discussion, because of which we think that maybe, we are treated so unfairly. There is an inclusion problem. But you went to LSR. Tell me, did you not feel an inclusion problem in an all-girls college?
I did.
Imagine, right? So it's everywhere. They say birds of a feather flock together, right? There is a reason why they say that. It's unfortunately the reality of the living world. So it's not like the birds are hanging out with tigers or lion or whatever, so it is what it is. Now in that, how do you keep your head like on your shoulder, strong, and not let all of this drown you, and do what you have to do, and not just chicken out? Okay, not just give up. That is very important. Yeah, of course there are instances, yeah, women have gone through a lot. It's not easy, because for centuries you were given a certain type of a role play, and now you are trying to get out and say, hey, probably even men are finding it difficult, because I hear about so many men saying, I want to be a homemaker, I want to be a at home dad. But does the society approve of it? No. The good thing is these taboos are being broken. It's very important that we have more and more women stick around at workplace, not give up, not drop out, because unless that happens, unless we have a sizable chunk at different workplaces and in different sort of walks of life, we won't be able to get our agenda through. I have given up at times. I have said, yaar, mujhe nahi padna isme, main nikal leti hu. But honestly, I don't think that helps. You have to really, really figure that out. And at the end of the day, again, it's about what you want. Okay. If you want something, you will do it. If you are very clear in your head that this is something I don't want, then you don't want. Yeah. But yeah, I think to get stuck in your head that, okay, this is happening to me because I'm a woman, I think that's a very dangerous place to be in.
Yes.
It is frustrating. I've felt it. I've felt like, okay, in a room full of men, I'm the only woman. My voice is sometimes not being heard. Okay, I've probably said something better than the rest of the men in the room, or I've said something similar to what maybe another man has said on the table. But it just kind of became like, oh, bro, yeah, cool, and you were. I've felt it. I've felt like, okay, in a room full of men, I'm the only woman. My voice is sometimes not being heard. Okay, I've probably said something better than the rest of the men in the room, or I've said something similar to what maybe another man has said on the table. But it just kind of became like, oh, bro, yeah, cool, and you were completely ignored. I felt humiliated. I felt like, what the hell? But do I want to really give up everything and not fight it out and not be out there. No, no, definitely not. That instance, I'm not going to allow it to deter me from doing what I want to pursue.
Yeah.
How did you manage with twins?
Yeah.
Okay, like I literally signed the term sheet on the day the twins were born. Company is actually incorporated on the same day, ACO. So
This is incredible.
It's crazy, right? But how did I do it? Because yeah, incredible partner at home, incredible partner at work. Like these are all men, yeah. Okay, so it's not like everything is all very sad and scary. I worked in a VC. It's not as bad, yeah, like as people make it out to be. That it's really a very sort of close and very scary place for women. No, yeah, I had the best of my time. These people were amazing with me. I'm still in touch with all of them, and when I meet them, it's like
They're rooting
I
for
never
you.
felt, yeah, I never felt like, I'm being treated differently because I'm a woman here.
Yeah.
Like always rooting for me. So, and not just like, even like, people, the founders of the firm, So, there are a lot of good things. You
Yeah.
have to really start looking at good things.
Yeah. So, Ruchi, you started out as a lawyer, moved to tech, and now you're building in fashion industry. Uh, did you have like any domain expertise or any unique insights to that pushed you to like build in fashion or clothing industry?
So I had this thing going on in my head for a very long time. One was my own struggle with fashion. Like I like simple, basic, high quality, not very expensive. I don't want to buy a Balenciaga t-shirt and all of that. I wanted a basic plain t-shirt, good quality. That makes me look like I'm educated. I've uplifted myself in life now. I can afford decent clothes and something that lasts. That was like a big struggle because I had this life, right? I was building a company. I had twins that I was raising together with it. In that, and I like dressing up well, by the way. I like dressing up, maybe not, I'm not very, very good with, I'm not a very fashionable person, or I'm maybe not very stylish. Maybe I'm much simpler in my approach, but I want to look, because I've always felt great when I walked into a meeting or entered the office dressed up well, looking sharp.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I worked in the UK, you dress up very well, yeah, over there. And, it just makes a difference. It makes a hell lot of difference. And I felt like it wasn't happening. It wasn't really happening with the brands that were there. Most brands were trying to cater to the young kids from college. I mean, we've moved on way back, from
Yeah.
that. So the struggle was really real, okay? Because you buy a basic plain white t-shirt, 2 washes, and you're like, again, I need the same thing.
Yeah.
So I was literally like entering a store and buying 10 pieces of white t-shirt, 10 pieces of black, because I was like, after 2 wash तो ये खत्म ही हो जाएगा. तो इससे अच्छा है कि 10 ले लो, कम से कम अगले 3 महीने मुझे खरीदना तो नहीं पड़ेगा. And men will understand this perspective. That's how they shop, right? They'll go and like, I don't want to shop for a whole year, so एक बार में ले लो. So I was pretty much shopping like that because, yeah, what do you have to wear? Maybe a really few smart pieces, some basic neutral pieces. So I was literally hoarding, and I am not a hoarder. I hate hoarding. I'm very Japanese minimalistic in the way I live. Okay, I like if you see my wardrobe, my friends used to laugh at me.
Ruchi, you're talking about like buying like neutral colored clothes. This brings me to the idea of having a capsule wardrobe, and a lot of people advocate that.
Yeah.
What do you think about having a capsule wardrobe as a female, right? A female working professional. Let's be precise.
It's very useful. It's really, really useful. I can tell you that. Especially, I mean, a professional woman, when you have so much that you're already managing, and on top of that, you want to look good at work, you want to look sharp at work, and then you have to struggle on a day-to-day basis on what to wear. It's tough. Okay, so when you have your thought, like your sort of capsule ready for the week, it's like that. You get up, okay, this is what I'm wearing today, this is what I'm wearing today, this is what I'm wearing today. It really helps, yeah. It really does help. And now workplace dressing has also changed drastically. We all wear denim to work, or we all wear casual to work. So it's very different now. Like when I started my career, we wore formals to work. So that was very different. So I was only buying formal clothes, skirts, dresses, pants, shirts. Really like t-shirts. I remember I wore once a t-shirt and a trouser on a Friday, and they said t-shirts not allowed at
So
work.
this was your wardrobe before Jolene.
This was my wardrobe before Jolene, like really high heels. Really, really high heels.
Okay,
I mean, I
so-
still wear heels sometime, but not so high anymore.
So now you're building Jolene. Like, what is the transition you've seen in your wardrobe?
My wardrobe transition way before Jolene actually.
Okay.
As soon as I moved out of Matrix, and as soon as I moved out, they also changed the dress code to smart casual. So they're all wearing denims at work. But nonetheless, I was happy at least I got to experience that world of dressing up at work. My wardrobe changed much before Jolene actually. It transitioned probably when I started ACO. Okay, it moved to a lot more smart casual, denim, shirts, t-shirts, lot more loafers, more block heels or platform heels, sneakers. So I have a lot
I
of
like
that.
sneakers.
Yeah, I love sneakers. Yeah. I love sneakers. I love all kinds of sports shoes actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved sports, so sports shoes are my favorite. It's great that I can wear them to work. I can style them differently. So, like pants that you can wear with sneakers, and I'm so glad that there is now a fashion trend that exists because when I did that way back in, 16, 17, 18, when I was running, before the whole sort of the trend became popular, people were like, wow. आज तो एकदम अंकल की तरह ड्रेसअप हो के आई हो That's hilarious. But yeah, a lot of that stuff now. So my wardrobe, I love denim. Okay, I love good, really, really good fit denim. Good shirts,
Yeah.
good tops, good t-shirts, some smart dresses maybe. I'm not a big dress person. What else I have in my wardrobe? Yeah, I have some Indian clothes. I love saris. I have a lot of saris. I love saris. I only wear saris. I don't wear salwar kurta that much. I have a lot of saris. I wear saris on every occasion that I can.
Lovely.
Okay, festival, puja. Like I just ensure I wear a sari. To my kids' school for ETAs and stuff is sari. Yeah, and lots of shoes. I'm not a big bag person. I have some bags. Yeah, that's how I have diversified my wardrobe now. I found my capsule for the week, my capsule for weekend, and my, a capsule for those special occasions.
Yeah. So, like, that was sort of like an inspiration, or like, you saw a void and then you wanted to fill in
Yeah.
with Jolene.
Yeah, so see, for me, the biggest pain point was the fact that I was buying the same thing in bulk, holding up, and still struggling after a month to buy similar type of clothes because that's what you want to wear on a day-to-day basis. Quality was a big issue. I mean, I wasn't getting, and most of us are not getting the quality that we want anywhere, right? It's very tough. You want to walk in, you want to get those basic t-shirts, basic shirts, basic denim, cut, done, and then just be sorted maybe for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is. Like, whatever type of shopper person, like shopping type of person that you are. So that's where it kind of became like, okay. And the other thing was the whole paucity of classic outfits, like no one really was doing the classics anymore. Like, you go back, you look at, like, I grew up, for example, watching my mom wear these lovely crochet tops with denim. And I was like, where can I find like these beautiful, simple blouses or tops? But nobody does that. Everything is very, very high fashion or just mass market. So nothing in between. So I felt like there is a huge opportunity here. Because you pretty much see everyone wearing something that sits in between high fashion and mass market. That's what people want. So I said, okay, this is great, but it wasn't like I was really looking to start a fashion brand. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't like, okay, I will get up and I will go and start another company or just do it. That, like, I knew that there can be possibility of a brand like this from India. Okay, from India. For me, that was the opportunity. India wasn't just the opportunity that existed when I was just kind of, thinking about it. That, there can be, because India has its seriously good resources when it comes to, textiles and production and, garmenting.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It has been an eye opener for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, why isn't any Indian brand or someone really trying to do? Why is everyone trying to just cater to the Gen Zs or the mass market? It's not like every Indian wants to buy that 200 rupee t-shirt. That's not the case. So I knew it existed, but it got accelerated because Rishabh decided to explore this, and he started doing something about it, to be honest. And that's when I got my FOMO. I said,
Again.
it's my idea, it's my brand. He's taking it. My husband. So I was like, okay, chuck it. I have to do this. So I spoke with my board at ACO, and they were very supportive. Yeah, honestly. I mean, because everything moved very fast last year, like just back to back, back to back, back to back, and it happened just too fast. To be honest, I didn't expect. I thought they also said, oh, you're gonna take a year or two to research and all of that, and I was like, what is there to research in fashion though? But it just happened very fast. So they were being very supportive. I continued on the board of ACO till very recently. Just last month, I decided to exit completely because now Jolene's also like really, really taking off. So I said, okay, now I can't be both sides. So yeah, so that's how Jolene happened. Honestly, like that's it was like just like that.
Love it.
Yeah. And that's how probably it happens with everyone. When you want to just do it, you'll just get up and just like
Yeah. Okay,
just do
before we end this, I have one last question. I, as a buyer today, I have too many options at my disposal when it
Yeah.
comes to clothing. So, do you think Jolene is like oh, one in a million brands or one of a million brand today?
uh it's a very interesting question. I can answer it both ways. I can say it is one in a million because yes, you are right. And that was the biggest question for us as well, because there is a lot of brand. Instagram is full of. I didn't know about it. Now probably the whole sort of ignorance worked in my favor because I wasn't on Instagram till very recently. So I had no idea about there being so many brands, in fashion and lifestyle in general on Instagram, the D2C brands that exist. So probably that ignorance, if I had probably known about I did some research, but I didn't like really find anything that felt like Jolene to me. Something that was really speaking to women like us. Like women who are working, women who have left who've come from small town, built a career, are very international in their outlook. I didn't feel like there was any Indian brand that existed which was like Jolene, which was this is the personality type I told you. That didn't come up. The other thing was, of course, I wasn't on Instagram, so I didn't know about so many brands. Even now, when I look at these brands, now of course, I'm on Instagram and it keeps coming up in my feed or whatever. I don't really see anything that's cutting across or trying or is in conflict with what's happening with the other brands on Instagram. Very different sort of market segment, very different TG, very different categories. Lot of them are just serving very different categories.
Yeah.
Aspirationally, they're very different
A
brands.
few are serving to like Gen Zs,
Correct.
some are focused on millennials.
Or some are just resort wear, or some are just very sort of casual wear. But like for us, we call our biggest category is called city wear and modern workwear, which is denims, t-shirts, and shirts. So is there a brand that's really doing denim for women who are 23 and above? I couldn't find that. Otherwise, I would have been shopping from them and I would have probably not been here. I would have been just very happy, doing what I was doing. So I definitely didn't. So one in a million maybe could be a very sort of, a very difficult question to answer because it can go either way. But is there a big retail brand? in this segment, in this price point, for this TG that exists, that has the potential to go international. I wasn't too sure about that. That's what I'm trying to build. So there's a lot of thing that goes into it. There is product, there's branding, there's so many things, right? Like how you think about it. Content plays a very important role, and every brand's content will be very different. So for me, at least at the moment, I don't feel there is any conflict. We'll see how it goes.
I just can't wait to see you as the brand of Jolie.
Oh wow.